What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode, Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. I am Jack Allen. Sorry for being a little late tonight. My guests had to reschedule, so I wasn't even going to do the show. And then luckily, I reached out to my good friend in this conspiracy world, Bob's Lessons. So he'll be joining us any second. And I got a few topics with him that I wanted to talk about. Just some different things. And but yeah, so we're waiting for Bob, but it's so not like this community is just so awesome. People are, it's like such a friendly, and I know it's all on the internet and it's not like in real life, but they're like, I've met people from Twitter that in real life, and it's truly like the truther community or whatever you want to call it, are awesome people all around. People like Bob that's gonna come on here. So he'll plug his show too, but go check his new podcast, Question the Narrative. He just did his second episode with another awesome guy, James R. James is probably one of the most like knowledgeable political people that I listen to. So I always enjoy that, even though but we don't all have to agree with that, what everyone thinks and feels. I'm sure you've heard, if you listen to my podcast regularly, I've totally, and I'll talk to Bob about it too, but I'm at this point of thinking that everything, the economic systems that we argue about, communism, socialism, capitalism, are all just there to create strife between us and to create enemies that they can prop up and take down and fuel the military industrial complex. The top 1% do not care about what economic system we have. They control the top regardless. The only way that they don't control the top is through a nationalistic people. And when I say nationalistic, I do not mean an ethno-nationalist. I don't mean that in any way. All I mean is that if you are in America, you are an American. And if we all, strive to the same goal of having a successful country, a country that didn't have open borders, all those things, that is what they fear the most. All right, so here's Bob. Let me get him in.
Hey,
Bob, I just introduced you, but I'm going to say it again, dude. Thanks for coming in when it was crunch time, dude.
Oh, dude. Oh, nope. This is what we do, man. This is what we do for each other. You've definitely come in crunched for me more than one time, so I'm happy to return the favor.
Dude,
I think I owe you one too, man, because something came up last week when I was supposed to come on the show.
You don't owe me anything, my friend. Anything.
This is cool, man. So I got to hang out backstage for a second.
Yeah, dude. Right.
I love. There was no cookies or sodas or anything.
Do you use StreamYard or no?
No, I haven't used it yet. I use Zencaster. Granted, I've only done 2 episodes, so I'm not the seasoned veteran like you, so I don't know all the tricks quite yet.
Seasoned, Bob, you are better. Your music videos and your photoshopping skills are beyond wherever I will get, my friend.
Well, do you remember when I called you in a panic last week because I spent 3 hours just trying to get dude, because anybody that's ever done, all right, if you haven't done podcasting before, let me tell you the stress of people like Jack who've been doing this for a long time. The little things that you don't understand about podcasting. I spent 3.5 hours trying to get an image to fit the exact dimensions and what was it, bit rates and all this other shit so that it will fit properly on iTunes. Otherwise, my podcast wouldn't even load on iTunes. So I called Jack, just in a panic trying to figure out.
But I was zero help, dude. That was, I don't know why. Did you do that artwork for your cover?
Yeah, I did that artwork in a program, and there's apparently there's a lot of converters online that can automatically change the dimensions and all that other stuff. But we're here now, man. I just released my second one earlier today, and had James R on, and you'll be on next week. So I'm excited about that as well. Just
yeah, dude. Well, so I have a few and I already shouted it out, but so we'll put the links and stuff in the bottom when we post it. But so I wanted to say something about like how you turned down a job, your career, something that you love to do. You actually did what all the tough people on Twitter say, like, oh, just get fired or whatever they say. And, so few people could do that in crunch time, but that's truly something that like speaks such volumes about your belief in in freedom, and as corny as that sounds, like that's seriously an amazing thing if people don't know that.
Yeah, it's it's just I'll just kind of give the basic premise of what happened. So I took a job at my local radio station, and they brought me on board. They scanned through my social media and to my surprise decided that they wanted to hire me on terrestrial radio. They were doing something different. It was more of a, I don't even just want to say conservative, but more middle of the road. So right. I'll just give you kind of an idea. Dan Bongino followed us, and then Ben Shapiro. The reason why I say Dan Bongino is because it's actually relevant to the story. So about 2 months in, I get a call from my boss saying that the company is going to institute vaccine mandates throughout the entire company. So that's all 100 stations, not just mine, the entire Cumulus Media umbrella. So my station didn't make that decision. Their hands were tied. So they knew when they hired me that I was not going to take this vaccine.
Right.
I applied for the medical and religious exemption, which were both denied, and they terminated me on October 11th. There's certain legal things that I'm going through right now, but those are just kind of the basic facts. But yes, I did walk the walk, and it's not to gain attention or anything like that. I did it for my own personal medical and religious beliefs. And, like you said, walking the walk is way more important than talking the talk. So now we're on the other side, and I'm back in the wild, hunting wild game for food, and begging for retweets and likes, which is where I'm comfortable.
Dude, that's a perfect. But that's a good play. I've told Bob before we talk, and if anyone can do it by themselves, it's not by yourself, but start your own You have you're great at talking on this format. Mm-hmm. You're musically talented. So if anybody can do it, you're like an artist, now you have I
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gave me confidence though, because, I was like, man, I'm on this show with two other idiots, and, you're out here doing 30 minutes an hour, 2 hours by yourself oftentimes. And that's hard to do. What I noticed with my first episode, about 10 minutes in, I realized I'm going to have to imagine that I'm speaking to somebody, because this is very difficult. Yeah. So I literally had to have an imaginary friend with me that I was acting like I was talking to in order to get through it.
Dude, no, you did. You did a great job, dude. Seriously. So I wanted to show this video first, since it related to. So this one I didn't bring up, but it's kind of an old one. Let me just but it's about the pharmaceutical. Share screen. All right, here. So let's make sure it'll play.
Did Abby spend on litigation and settlements from 2013 to 2018?
I don't have that number off.
This is a huge pharmaceutical company.
$1.6 billion, $2.45 billion on R&D, $1.6 billion in litigation and settlements. What about marketing and advertising? How much does Abby spend on that?
Well, marketing and advertising, we spend about $4 billion a year.
$4 billion.
Dude.
$1 billion. How about executive compensation?
This part too.
2013 to 2018.
2013 to 2018, it's probably on average about $60 million a year.
Try 334 on for size. Now,
wow. She had the numbers.
I know, dude. I know.
And shareholders, stock buybacks and dividends to enrich your shareholders from 2013 to 2018.
Well, stock buybacks, if you actually look at just pure stock buybacks.
This dude just looks like a sleazeball.
It looks photoshopped.
Yeah. So, you get the point. But basically, I was showing that because it's just mind-blowing to that people still think this huge company that you just heard all these numbers, that means that they're spending all these billions of dollars, and they jack your price up because of that. It's not all for research. They only spent $1.2 billion on research. They spent it all on manipulating their stock to make it higher. They spend it on bonuses and all this stuff like that.
Do you remember when the Clinton Foundation, we saw their tax returns, and you saw that basically because with a lot of these philanthropic endeavors and organizations like the Clinton Foundation, you can tell the good ones from the bad ones in the Clinton Foundation. It was like 90% of like the money coming in was going towards like other expenses and things like that. You know, it's the same thing. It's all going to kickbacks. But the dangerous thing with the pharmaceutical companies is that, like you were saying, they were manipulating the market to enrich. It says right there, actually, to enrich their shareholders. So the other thing they're doing is they're manipulating the data, which is talked about a lot in the book, How to Lie with Statistics. And then the last thing they're doing is the money. Part of that money and the manipulation is designed to discredit their competition, which is something that doesn't get talked about enough. Part of discrediting your competition is creating language in the marketplace. For example, anti-vax, right? Or, you know, labeling anybody an anti-vaxxer that just questions big pharma. So all these things kind of go hand in hand, and it's just unbelievable that people will defend these big pharmaceutical companies ad nauseum and call you all these kinds of names just for raising the question, saying, hey, I have a question about this vaccine or this treatment, or why is this price so high, or why are they not talking about this treatment, which worked for me, but, you know, they're suppressing information here, but promoting drugs that are making me sick.
Right. Well, dude, and also what's like crazy. So like, you know, you have to send your drug to clinical trials. So they have an idea of like a compound or whatever. They say, all right, I think it's going to do this. So they test it on animals. Then they're getting results. So what they do though is a lot of times halfway through the trial, they realize so that maybe the goal was to reduce Alzheimer's symptoms. Well, halfway through the trial, they realize, oh shit, it's not actually doing that. So what is it doing? And so like this one example, I forget the company, but they changed it from reducing Alzheimer's symptoms to lowering a protein in your brain. So does this protein in your brain mean Alzheimer's symptoms are decreased? No. But so then it does that. It reduces this protein, which has no correlation, and it doesn't harm anybody, you know, lots of people. So they get it passed, and then they have their marketing people figure out a way that they're not lying on their TV show ad. And then they sell the shit out of it. And like one round of this med costs $2,000 or something insane like that. So that's all. Like there is so few drugs that have been invented in the last like 50 years, you know, besides our, like in the back, penicillin and antibiotics and all those things. But there hasn't been any new huge inventions that are extending life in any way. Right. But look how huge this system is.
I mean, just think about it. And there's only 2 countries that do direct to consumer marketing too. So we have to understand, I think it's us in New Zealand, coincidentally enough. And I could be wrong about the other country. But yeah, all these things are really important, because when you have direct to consumer marketing, that's where all the deception comes in, you know? And, you know, it's just the proverbial, you see like a commercial of like, you know, let's just say like a dick pill or something. And, you know, like an old couple's like hanging out in a park, sitting on a bench, and they look happy. And then at the end, it's like side effects may include heart attack, anal bleeding, and death or something, you know? And you're like, wait, hold on a second. Can we slow that down? Did you just say anal bleeding and death? You know, like those aren't side effects. Those are effects. Okay. If the side effect is worse than what it heals, then that, you know, that could be problematic. But I agree with you. And even with antibiotics, we run into problems, because we're seeing with this virus that viruses and bacteria, they evolve and they morph and they mutate. And so there may come a time in which antibiotics are no longer effective.
Right. Because people take them for everything. So they go overboard. And
I'm not saying antibiotics don't save lives. They do. They've saved my life. You know, they're very effective. I'm just saying anything created in a lab, nature finds a way. Yeah, that's a good line. It's powerful. Yep. Yeah, I just wanted to show that because I thought it related to your. So the next video, I think I'm going to do the we talked about before, and I'm sure everyone's seen the Ray Epps video, but I'll play it real quick. And then I saw the other ones. So let me just hit share again. One day I'm going to have this even better organized. No, this is cool, man. All right, screen sharing, backstage passes.
Get back tomorrow. I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested. Well, let's not say we need to go. I'll say it. We need to go in to the Capitol.
Do you have one marijuana cigarette?
What's up, fellow cool kids?
Into the Capitol. Into the Capitol.
Look at this guy.
Dude,
We're
right?
gonna go streaking.
And then Baked. This is Baked Alaska. Do you know what Baked is?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. He's questionable too, I think, but regardless.
Look at this guy. And here's my
it's-
question. Look at how he's dressed. Okay. Did you notice how many people with backpacks ended up inside the Capitol? That's important because I saw the same type of people, during a lot of the, what's the guy's name? Lloyd, in Minnesota.
Oh,
What was his name? George Floyd.
Lloyd.
Yeah. Like Lloyd something, Floyd, whatever.
Lloyd
I'm actually glad that name is out of my,
That's
the
true.
front of my
That's true.
memory bank.
George.
But there is an important thing, and it's a real thing. This isn't a conspiracy. These are called, you can say COINTELPRO. These are also what's called agent provocateurs, and their design is to provoke. They are agents who are designed to provoke what otherwise would be peaceful protesters into being more violent. What it's like, it's like they're the spark that lights the fire. So, for example, if you have a mob of 100 peaceful protesters and one person throws a Molotov cocktail through a window,
So right.
98 might look at that window and then go, yeah, or
Right.
even 20 might go, yeah, and it just starts the avalanche of violence. That's their design. But they're so easy to spot. They're either wearing black or military garb. They'll have backpacks. They'll have really expensive equipment. Right. So, I mean, it's just like what I was saying, like with, when you have a cop that's trying to play a hippie, asking a hippie for one marijuana cigarette, like, dude, like
Right.
we can tell that you're the popo here. But, and this is real because agent provocateurs have been spotted and found at peaceful protests. And so this is something that was very apparent on January 6th, is that people like this Epps guy were in uniform and got people riled up to storm the Capitol, and that it was everybody was in on it, including
Right.
the security that was there. It looked like night security at a museum, like where it was just a guy with a flashlight,
Yeah.
So am I surprised by this? No, but is this still revealing and it's important? Yes. But, I guarantee you this story is going to get just suppressed. What do you think about it?
No, dude, I totally agree with that's perfect with the spark that sets it off. Because it's not like most people aren't, when they're protesting, they're not looking to burn and loot and destroy things, but it just like that mob mentality is so powerful. There's all those names for like the certain, like Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't know which one it is, but it's like if you go along with the group, even if you know it's wrong, you're going to go. A lot of people, especially maybe weaker willed, less confident people, will follow what the mob is doing. So if you can get the mob riled up, and they have us studied so well, they know what we're going to do before we even do it and what it'll take.
Yep. Yeah. That's what you said. Like they do psychological, studies of all different kinds of groups to know what would set it off. Now, granted, the execution isn't always what they expect it to be, but you saw even on January 6th, while this stuff was happening, and I really want people, if they didn't look at the video, to go back and look and just count how many people are wearing backpacks. I don't know about you, but
I never noticed that.
Just go look at next time you're there, or just look at people that aren't dressed in casual clothes. Like, in my opinion, most of those are agent provocateurs, crisis actors, whatever you call them. Right. But it looked like a movie setting. Like you had almost like rafters on both sides, like leading you, funneling you into this area. And like the scene was set. It was kind of scary to watch. I remember as it was unfolding, I was like, this looks like a movie being played out right now. And then January 6th was the excuse that was needed to start pulling the plug on everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the second video that I just saw today.
Okay.
Any second.
Pure politics. I've been trying to get a hold of you. We met January 5th.
We're patriots. Or
Well,
Patriots?
do you remember me from January 6th?
I understand that, but I can't see you.
Are you
Woo!
still under investigation by the FBI?
But look at this property.
Are you a federal informant?
Wow.
Is there a reason why the FBI took you off the most wanted list?
Are you a federal?
But yeah, so I think most people know that, but he was on the FBI most wanted list as the sedition hunters, hunting down the people that tried to commit a coup. And clearly he's on lots of video, but he has this beautiful property. Never been brought in, was removed off the FBI most wanted list. I mean, it's just absurd, right now.
Yeah. So he was on the FBI most wanted list and then coincidentally removed from it.
Right.
And now he can't speak on it.
Right.
So that's his property?
Yeah, that's his property. It's
It
huge.
looks like I see some palm trees or
Ray Epps.
something. Where is he?
Are you a federal informant?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's palm. I don't
Like right there. Oh, never mind. That's not palm trees. It's just blocked by a
Yeah.
shed.
Property?
Okay.
But dude, even I did a tweet like that John Sullivan, the Uber driver for.
Mhm.
Do you remember that guy? He was like at a BLM protest. He said we're going to rip Donald Trump out of the White House. His adopted dad, which I found very interesting, because so many people that are like this are adopted, right? Or they have traumatic events. But he's adopted with his brother, and his dad is like an admiral in the Air Force in information or spy. Like I forget the title, but he's like a spy guy for the Air Force. And his one son is John Sullivan. The other son runs a like right-wing, quote unquote, extremist group. And so he's on the other, like, what are the odds?
So they're on both
Right.
extreme ends of the political spectrum.
Yes.
This reminds me a lot of and I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it reminds me of just like Jim Morrison, the son of a Navy high ranking naval officer that was on the Gulf of Tonkin. It's like all of a sudden he becomes like the poster child of the anti-war hippie movement.
Right.
So it's like, they breed these kids that just end up like, complete extremists. But it's an interesting point you brought up about being adopted or having some type of psychological issue, because it's the same way that predators work, right? When you're preying on somebody, you prey on the vulnerable. Like, with the Franklin scandal, they were doing that out of a foster home. So it's people that, don't have strong families, right? People that are more susceptible to being brought in, and there's not that many people that will remember them if something were to happen, or if they were a patsy or a fall guy.
No, you bring up a good point with the family, because you're young now, you're missing that key piece, an adult that, you have no adult affection or love, and somebody comes into your life that acts like maybe they do love them, but they adopt you or assume care of you. And the power that those people must have over these kids runs deeper probably than your normal like parent-child relationship, because these kids were lost for maybe 7 years. They had no parents, and now someone comes in. I just imagine that could really be beneficial to somebody that's trying to create, like they did Jim Morrison, or create somebody that can be leading a movement or instrumental.
It's interesting that you say create, because think about that. You're creating something, like it's a eugenics experiment. Even if you're not performing like a physical experiment, if you're doing psychological operations on a human being to create something that normally would not have been that's a eugenics experiment.
Right. Yeah, dude. And I know we always talk about MK Ultra, but that's just I just read that book on Alan Dulles, The Devil's Chessboard. And the stories that like these people, they were so ahead of the time that nobody even recognized that they could do this in the 1950s and 60s. But they created so many people like this, like that one guy in the book Laurel Canyon.
Canyon.
He fell off the map, and then he like came back 13 years later. Or he said, I forget what his name was. He was like, but he released some crazy like alien CDs and stuff eventually. I think he died. But at one point he said that his old name was dead. He killed him. And now he's like reborn as this new guy, like having two personalities in his head.
But
it
could have been, I've read that the MK Ultra, that type of stuff, it wears off after time. So it's almost like a split personality. That's really
Right.
what it is.
Yeah.
That's why, like, when, we've talked about the No Mercy podcast about like these celebrity glitches, just like we're in the middle of nowhere. Like,
Right.
it's just like that scene out of Zoolander where you have that in Zoolander, he was MK Ultra, and then the song Relax cued him to try to commit an assassination. Right.
Right.
So it seems like some of these celebrities either have cue words or something from their handlers. The most popular one I remember is Al Roker, who was in the chubby weather dude from what was it, the morning
One
show?
of those shows, yeah.
Yeah. So he's in the middle. I mean, and he's like one of the most happy-go-lucky dudes, and like right in the middle of a broadcast, somebody says something. It's like either Jesus or Christ, and when that word is said, he's like laughing, and he just goes blank, and he just. It almost looks like a shutdown, like that Microsoft like shutting down sound.
Right.
Like he just shuts down and he just stares at the camera and he doesn't blink for like 40 seconds.
Right.
Yeah, I wonder
if
you can find that.
It's a crazy.
Try
Let's just do this.
Try DuckDuckGo. See, here.
Oh, dude, you're right. I'm using Google like not being a good conspiracy person.
No, it's fine. You probably find it better. Let's see. Anderson Cooper mocks Al Roker's frozen pose.
Let's see if
it's bringing you to freaking CNN. It's such a funny clip, dude.
I know, giving us another. Let's see.
So here's what they're trying to do. This is actually a good way to analyze this. So they're trying to bring attention to it and just kind of like joke about it.
Yeah.
In a mockery way.
Yeah.
What's up with Al Roker? Okay. Let's see what Anderson Cooper has to say. Anderson Vanderbilt.
Oh, dude, right?
Dances, and then this happened.
Yeah.
That's exactly how you have to have a certain amount of distance between the bodies in your eye.
Yes, like they say in Catholic school, leave room for the Holy Ghost. Anyway, there is a lot of memories today, actually. It's a big day in music history.
35 years ago today, Elvis Presley passed away, the king of
Look at this.
Right, like even if you're a humorous guy, this is beyond a joke,
That's scary. That's scary. And the thing is, it keeps going too, and they cut off. And did you notice it happened right after he said Holy Ghost?
Yes, you were right on that. I haven't noticed that before.
Yeah, she said leave room for the Holy Ghost. Notice how she didn't even say Jesus, leave room for the Holy Ghost. And so then he just shuts down. Scary, man.
Yeah.
Well, it could be nothing.
Yeah, it absolutely, but there's a lot of examples of that. But if anybody that like listens that struggles to believe that they actually did this to people, Alan Dulles, the creator of the CIA, he did it to his own son because his son got shrapnel in his head in Korea, and his son, they put him in like those like the float chambers,
like sensory deprivation.
Yes. They did that for weeks on end, hitting him with that psychic driving, like the same, I mean, they tortured this kid and his
like Clockwork Orange style.
Yeah, dude. And that was Alan Dulles' own kid, and he knew what they were doing. Like, so
using him as an experiment.
Yeah, dude. Isn't that insane to do that to your own son because he was like kind of he like was struggling with memory and things like that. And they tried all these. So imagine if they actually wanted somebody to fulfill a role or to be a certain way, they would have no problem doing that.
It's mind-boggling. And then here's the other thing I think about it is like I really feel like once they're done with them in a ritualistic manner, they dispose of them just like you would a greyhound dog once they're done, performing on the track.
Right.
That's why you've seen a lot of these death at 27 celebrities. And Kurt Cobain's one of them. I talked a lot about how I thought the whole death around Kurt Cobain was very strange, and that Seattle scene is eerily reminiscent of the anti-war movement of the 70s. So I do feel like once there's no use for them, then they dispose of them, just like they would an animal that has no more use.
I had this guy Don Jeffries on last night. Have you ever heard?
I was just gonna ask you that because I haven't listened to it yet because you just posted yesterday. But
yeah. Well,
listen, it's right up my alley. It says entertainment, deaths and assassins, gradualism, degeneracy, and tyranny. So tell me.
Well, so
talk to me.
He brought up this. It's from the same guy, Dave McGowan, on his website. I haven't gotten to look through yet, but just using entertainers as ways to do huge things to the public. And I guess that Dave McGowan guy had a theory. So John Wilkes Booth was a Freemason, like his photos with his hidden hand. And I think he makes the claim basically that Abe Lincoln wasn't actually assassinated. They just used John Wilkes Booth to act this out, to fake this. It was a fake event. And they did it because Abe Lincoln, served his purpose. And in those days you could literally disappear. And so they fake killed him. Isn't that a crazy theory?
Well, no, it's not, because I read a book by, sorry, I'm trying to add some more lighting. I read a book from Jesse Ventura that elaborated even further on that theory, that Abraham Lincoln was the first real, true American conspiracy theory. There's a lot of stuff behind this Dr. Mudd character as well. So no, it's not surprising to hear that, because it fits the same narrative, right? Of the patsy that has this elaborate scheme to kill the president, but then gets caught immediately. Right. Yeah. And then you have the parallels between Lincoln's death and JFK's death. Yeah. All the synchronicities. So
right. And that's beyond just coincidence. All of those, he hid in a library, all those things.
It was odds? One went from a library to a theater, the other went from the theater to a library, and the name of the theaters and the libraries were syncing up. And somebody's doctor was Kennedy, the other doctor was Lincoln, or something. It was it's a never-ending list of synchronicities, and I can look them up, but whatever. Yeah. I feel like most people know some of those.
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen those. But so I thought that was maybe entertainers, out of that drive to be famous or to have power, they have always been even Shakespeare. I think they said he was no one knows who Shakespeare was. But it would be like Harry Houdini. That's in Dave McGowan's book. Harry Houdini was a spy for the US OSS or whatever the State Department was at that time. And he was such a good spy because he could go travel in places and people loved him. He would have these huge crowds. And in his off hours, he would get access to things that nobody else had access to. And in Germany, he was spying, and all these places, he was a spy for the U.S. government. So and that was in the 1910s, 1910 and 20s. So they've been using entertainers as spies and people to have a good cover story forever.
Yeah, if you think about it, entertainers are the best way to not only cover your message, but to spread it to a lot of people, at one time. That microphone is very powerful. Yeah. In my first podcast, I talked about how important comedians are. One, because I think they're the greatest philosophers and storytellers, but also because they're very dangerous. They're the people that see the matrix, see the zeros, and at least the good ones. I'm talking about the good ones. Yeah. Take away the laugh track of George Carlin, right? For example. And you have a really great philosopher, but you also have somebody that's saying stuff like this, there's a secret club, and guess what? You're not in it. Right. He talks a lot about these secret clubs. You're not in it, this club. And that's very dangerous to people, because when you have somebody with a microphone and that much influence that can sway that many people, then they become a danger. However, if you can control it by planting operatives in the scene, in comedy, in entertainment, in music, people that will help you, help steer the population in any direction, whether it's diluting the anti-war movement or whether it's creating a generation of the Gen X, it's just, listen, man, the 90s was a depressing, disgusting. It really did. It bred a bunch of just dystopian, degenerate style people. It destroyed people's belief in faith. And, it took me a while to get out of it.
I agree. Yeah.
Even just from a frequency standpoint, you listen to a lot of the grunge and the music that came out from the 90s, and it's very depressing. You look at the lyrics, it talks a lot about suicide and death. And so, I think that's, I don't think that's an accident that stuff got out.
Dude, I talked about this last night, but Don, I never thought of it this way, but think of that, even things like the teenage angst with your parents of being a rebel and things like that. That stuff didn't start until the 50s or 60s when they had these TV shows and the cool bad guy like Elvis and all these people telling, oh, you don't get along with your parents. Like that didn't exist
Right.
all of history. But now all of a sudden, like, so what would be the purpose of telling kids, oh, you're just going to rebel against your parents. You're not going to listen. They don't know. And all programming us subtly that we don't notice, but
well, it's a gradual thing. And here's the other thing, what it does, it turns you away from your parents. So what happens is when you don't have faith in a higher being, when you've been trained to, like you said, with the teenage angst, what happens is pop culture becomes your god. Pop culture becomes your mommy and daddy.
Nice.
It becomes your best friend. So you go with the culture. And then, listen, I mean, even me, my friends knew way more about me than my parents. And looking back on it, if I had sided with my mom a couple more times than I did, I probably would be in a better place if I'd listened to her more, which I'm assuming I would have, had the pop culture not kind of trained me to rebel against your mother as if she's like, some type of enemy, which, they're not. They come from a position of care. I would wonder, just how children treated their parents, before this became a thing. I don't know if it's something that was always there, but I do know that children way back in the day, I mean, they were put to work, as early as, 8, 9 years old. So the idea of childhood was much shorter. Right.
No, I would be interested to find out too, but I imagine, everything, but this is a perfect segue for, let me do this. There.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
so
sweet.
So I hope you work on your songs. Did they all get taken off YouTube already?
Not yet. Two of them got taken off of Twitter, but I just got copyright claims.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't know. Didn't it get demonetized then because of that?
Yes. No? My whole channel is demonetized, and the thing is I think I fly just enough under the radar to stay afloat.
Yeah. No, dude, but you don't say now as you see it, the restrictions are, as long as you don't talk about, COVID, then you're all right. But yeah, so Bryson Gray, his song is #1 on iTunes. And I want but before I get your, I just think, I bought the song just to support him for 99 cents, but
good.
This is like saying to all of us, like, if we come together, like, we could have actual power, but they want us to think we have no power.
Well, these are small signs to show that we actually have power. And I talked about this yesterday with James R. So I'm kind of just going to reiterate some of the things he said, because he brought up some good points. Whether or not you are pro MAGA, pro Trump, whatever, this besides the point. What you have to look at this is from like a psychological standpoint. What's happening is Bryson Gray, who, I mean, think about it. He didn't even say FJB, right? He said, "Let's go, Brandon," which figuratively means FJB, but that's not what it means. Right. Had a song that reached #2, and then it gets canceled, and then it shoots up #1 and pushes Adele off of #1 after being canceled. What it goes to show is the power of like what you're doing, Jack, which is investing, in content creators, people that provide good content. And the more you try to ban us, the stronger we become. And I think that's important. And Bryson Gray made a good point too. He's like, listen, you are promoting entertainers that are talking about sex, that are talking about wet ass this, talking about drugs and violence. And you're gonna ban me for saying that, I had their excuse was the line of the pandemic isn't real. It was planned. They planned it. I think that was the line, something like that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And so people aren't stupid. I think they think the public's stupid and that we're just going to like settle in and just, go along with this. But nope, I'm very sorry. It's too late for that. And the more you try to ban something, the more popular it becomes.
Yes.
It's like, what was that cartoon where if you knocked them on the head, like 2 of them popped out, right? And then you kept trying to kill them with a mallet. And every time you knocked them on the head, they kept replicating. That's kind of like what's happening with us. It's like every time you try to ban it, it becomes exponentially more popular.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, dude. It's just, and I have like, he doesn't curse in his songs. And just how he said, pop culture controls us so much. It's just like sometimes it can get pretty depressing in our we just see everything like crumbling in ways that aren't going our way. But to see that like people came together for this, at least, like it just shows that there is like some or it also puts out, like, we always see the extremes on Twitter. We see the far right and we see the far left. And that's what makes me think the world is like that. But things like that show me that it's much more in the middle of both these extremes.
Yes. Yeah. And the other thing about it is that this was a thing that we emphasized on my podcast too, is that the content creators are going to be the driving force of our freedom. And that's why they're going after the content creators. When one of the important lines in his song is he said that he won't sell his soul, and whether it's metaphorical or whether it's a literal selling of your soul, there is that selling out process where you do sell your soul. And the ones that do and toe the line are the ones that get the clicks, the likes, the blue check marks, the ones that get all the play on the top 40 stations and played over and over and over again until your 7-year-old child is singing Wet Ass Pee, in the living room. Right. And so the content creators, the ones that grow organically, are the ones that they're scared of. And that's why they're scared of this. I even tried to look up the lyrics to it, and without typing in Bryce, I mean, if I typed in "Let's Go Brandon" lyrics, I mean, you're talking the number one song. I'm telling you, I've been doing this as a musician. I've been doing this for years, where I type in the song title and lyrics, and it pops straight up.
Yeah,
like
right away.
I've relied on that for years because I sing cover songs. And I typed in "Let's Go Brandon" lyrics, and it sent me like in like 3 different directions other than the number one song. Right. So I had to type in "Let's Go Brandon" Bryson Gray lyrics in order to read the lyrics to a song.
Dude.
Yeah.
Isn't it's just crazy? And the last thing I want, because we have a shorter show because but I wanted to bring up this let me just put it up here. So it says Pornhub traffic surged by more than 10% when there was that Facebook outage, which equals, let me try to get this screen up here. But I can't get the screen up, but that's what it says. Surged by 10%, which equals about 500,000 additional users each hour that Facebook services were down.
Each hour?
So isn't that insane, dude? Like that.
You know what? No. Because the same thing happened. Remember in Hawaii, there was that fake missile scare where everybody on the island of Hawaii, from what I heard, Porn Hub, and just located in Hawaii, it surged during that missile scare. Because I guess people were like, I'm going to rub one out real quick before the world ends. But no, it doesn't. It doesn't surprise me. It scares me, but it doesn't surprise me. But and that's the other thing. Why do you think it's free now and so readily available? I went out to dinner with my girlfriend's sisters, worried that her, kid in 5th grade is going to have access to it. Dude, because it's one click of the button.
Absolutely. That is it. There was like one video. It said how porn usage after school gets out. So kids under than 18, most likely goes up 400% after school hours, 400%. And then they they start with whatever regular, and they start going to more graphic, more violent things.
That's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So clearly this is free because it's that gradualism that they want to break down this healthy, thing that you do with someone you love and turn it to free love of like the 70s, but even more sinister kind of behind it.
I think there's a reason for that. I actually think that it's more of like an occult, like sex magic type thing that they're trying to do.
That's a good point too.
But I was thinking, like, if I ever had a kid, I would love to invent something like, when you steal something from a store and you open it, sprays that like dye on you.
Yeah.
Like I want to do something where, like, if my kid opens a laptop and he goes to a porn site, it just shoots like blue dye on his face, so that when I get home, he's got blue dye on his face. And I'll be like, I know what you did.
There's your $1 million invention, dude. Right there.
That's it.
Yeah,
dude, I'm telling you, I would make so much money, dude. Just
absolutely, dude. Well, Bob, where can everyone find you? And thanks again for doing all this. But all your stuff.
Yeah, sure. So, real simply, on Twitter and Instagram, it's at Bob's Lessons. You can see it in the graphic at BOBSLESSONS. I'm on the No Mercy podcast. I just started my own solo podcast, kind of like Phil Collins leaving Genesis or Justin Timberlake leaving NSYNC. That's kind of what I'm doing here.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's called the QTN podcast. Q as in Quest, T as in Terrence, N as in neighbor podcast. You can find it on Apple Podcast, Podbean, and it's now on Spotify. I just had the second episode with my friend James R. And you, sir, will be my guest next week.
Dude, I would be honored at any point. So, Bob, thanks for coming in again, dude. You really you saved my night. So I'm super.
You saved my night. What are you talking about, dude? You saved my night.
All right, we'll kiss later. All right, Bob. Take care, man. Thanks again.
All right,
dude.
bro.
See you later.